After months of planning our trip to Georgia, the big day had finally come.
Svetla. To je to, radi.
We loaded up 3 motorcycles, Cheda's, Gliga's and mine, but since Gliga had work obligations and couldn't start with us, the plan was for him to fly to Trabzon, where we would pick him up and continue the journey together toward Georgia. We set off from Belgrade, planning to transit through Bulgaria and Turkey, pick up Gliga at the airport in Trabzon and reach Batumi, where we would unload the bikes and continue on 2 wheels. Everything went smoothly, until we reached the Turkish border.
You shall not pass!
After almost 8 hours of running from counter to counter, the officials demanded we pay 2,000 euros for insurance, claiming that 2 people with 4 vehicles couldn't pass through Turkey in transit. We refused and turned back to Bulgaria, where we found a beautiful campsite just an hour from the border. That's where we regrouped and came up with a new plan. We would ride a TET in Turkey and each of us would cross the border on his own motorcycle.
Rakija.
This meant Gliga's flight ticket was wasted and he had to book a new one, to Sofia this time, so we could pick him up and bring him back to our campsite. Waiting for him added 2 extra days to our journey, but it turned out to be the perfect chance to rest and recover from the stress at the border. After 2 days of resting in Bulgaria, Gliga boarded a flight from Belgrade to Sofia just as we agreed. We picked him up and drove back to our campsite, where we planned to hop on the bikes and finally head toward Turkey the next day. It was such a refreshing feeling, knowing that after 3 days of setbacks and border chaos, our real journey was finally about to begin. We did some fine-tuning preparations before going to sleep.
Технология.
Technologia. The day had finally come to start our 2-wheel journey. There was just one more thing left to do, which was to find a place to leave the car and trailer. Luckily, we met a local guy named Danny who kindly offered us the spot to park them for the next 15 days while we were on a mission to explore Turkey. Our goal for the first day was to cross into Turkey without any issues, then get past Istanbul and find a place to camp near the TET route. We still had one little issue at the border. Cheda had an expired green card, but that problem was easily solved with 70 euros. With that behind us, we had around 450 kilometers of highway ahead, which was the only way to get past the flat and boring part of Turkey before the real adventure began. Not according to plan, we ended up searching for a camping spot at night, which is never the smartest thing to do. Fortunately, we found a place that was good enough for our first night in Turkey. Although it rained for most of the night, the evening went smoothly and we rested well, ready for the first day of off-road action, which began right after the breakfast. At one point, we reached the mountain region where we noticed a waypoint on the route marked as a must-see spot. Although it was a bit of a trek, we decided to check it out. We rode up to the top, where the view opened up to a lake, wind turbines, and a vast green meadow that looked like a perfect place to camp. Even though we hadn't covered many kilometers that day, it was time to decide: set up camp or keep riding further. The decision was easy, despite the many wind turbines around us clearly warning that it would be a windy evening. That meant we had to be extra careful with campfire, but our stomachs needed to be filled after a long day without lunch. Despite being exposed to constant wind through the night, we woke up well rested and continued our journey. Right at the start, we got the chance to be amazed by just how enormous a wind turbine blade really is. Next came a section that allowed us for a faster pace, giving us a great opportunity to make up for the kilometers we missed the day before. After some time, we arrived in a small town where we could really feel the true spirit of Turkey. We grabbed a few essentials there and continued our journey. one point, the rain caught us, so we pulled over to put on our rain gear and waited for the weather to settle. But when it became clear it wouldn't stop, we hopped back on the bikes and kept going. After a really interesting day full of fast sections, we found a spot with fresh water, which meant tonight was the night for some proper hygiene. On the menu for the next day was a waypoint labeled "Strange structure, must visit." There was no question about it. We had to go and see what it was. As we got closer, an unusual sight appeared ahead. Burj Al Babas, a ghost town made of hundreds of small castle-like houses that were never finished. It was supposed to be a luxury resort, but the project went bankrupt, leaving all these empty castles behind. Now it stands silent, a strange mix of beauty and sadness in the middle of the Turkish mountains.
Jel imaš net? Aj samo ne znam da li nam traži pare ili nas pita koliko ćemo dugo biti. A? Dobro, nećemo baš.
We wrapped up all our tasks for the day, finally found some beer and continued the adventure. Later we learned that beer can only be bought in blue and yellow stores, a valuable discovery for the days ahead. Before we started searching for a camping spot, we couldn't resist stopping for a Turkish classic: bread and sucuk sausage. Hard to believe, but it's the 6th day in a row we're having sausage for dinner. After a cup of herbal tea made from the plants Gliga picked, it was time to decide which direction our journey would take next. Since Turkey is a huge country and we didn't have much time, we had to skip part of the route to reach the eastern mountains where peaks rise about 3000 meters. That meant covering 500 kilometers of highway in a single day, and that's exactly what we did. we booked a place to stay in Samsun and hit the road. Remember those blue and yellow stores from yesterday? Well, one of them was right in front of our hotel.
Šta li se krije u crnom kesi? Crna mađija. Opa! Šta je to tamo?
We took a moment to enjoy the sea and relax, getting ready for the thrilling part of the journey that awaited us.
Hey, we going to the Samsung.